Illinois was the first state east of the Mississippi where women were allowed the right to vote with the Illinois Suffrage Act of 1913. Welcome to Junior Historians. I'm Darcy, the middle school librarian at the St. Charles Public Library, and joining me is Lindsay Judd, the director of the St. Charles History Museum. Today, the Junior Historians are exploring women's suffrage in St. Charles. Lindsay, can you tell us what suffrage means?
It means the right to vote in a political election.
And women weren't allowed to vote?
In our country's last 245 years, women have only been permitted the right to vote for the last 101 years.
How long were women fighting for their right to vote?
Women had been organizing the suffrage movements for a long time, but it really started to pick up steam in the 1820s, decades before the Civil War began. By 1848, the women's rights movement was beginning to organize on a national level. In July of 1848, the first Women's Rights Convention was held at Seneca Falls, New York. Led by reformers Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott, the convention hosted more than 300 people, including men and women. About 20 years later, in 1869, Stanton and Susan B. Anthony formed the National Women's Suffrage Association, or NWSA. With the goal to get a federal constitutional amendment written to allow women to vote. The same year, Lucy Stone and Henry Blackwell founded the American Women's Suffrage Association, or the AWSA, which not only fought for the right for women to vote, but for all people, no matter of the color of their skin, to also vote.
The 15th Amendment, which says the right to vote cannot be denied based on the race and color, passed in 1869, so the NWSA must have been doing something right. What happened next?
A little over a decade later, in 1890, the NWSA and the AWSA merged to form the National American Women's Suffrage Association, or the NASSA. They decided to lobby for women's rights to vote on a state-by-state basis. Within 6 years, Colorado, Utah, and Idaho created amendments to their state constitutions, allowing women the right to vote. Several states followed in the next 23 years until the 19th Amendment was passed in 1919.
Did any woman in Illinois vote before 1919?
The first woman to vote in Illinois was Ellen Martin of Lombard in 1891. The Lombard town charter stated any resident over the age of 21 would be allowed to vote in local elections.
And how'd that go?
Apparently, the idea of allowing women to vote literally knocked over a few men who were stationed at the polling place. But Ellen Martin, who was a lawyer, had come armed with a copy of the town's charter, pointing out that nowhere did it say voting was limited to men only. After she voted, 14 more women came in to cast their votes. Soon after, the charter was changed to limit voting to men only.
Can you tell us about the Illinois Suffrage Act of 1913?
Absolutely. As you mentioned earlier, this act did give women the right to vote, but not in all elections. It limited their participation in electing presidents, mayors, aldermen, and most other offices, local offices, but not in electing governors, state representatives, or members of Congress. This is called partial suffrage.
This seems a little bit like offering someone a cookie, but when they accept, breaking it in half so they can't have the whole thing. I imagine women at that time kind of felt the same way and weren't happy with this arrangement.
Very, very true. And while Illinois women might have had some rights to vote, many states blocked women from voting at all.
What did the women of this time period do about this predicament?
They marched. They spoke out. They protested all over the country. The women fighting for their right to vote were called suffragettes. More states noticed what Illinois and other like-minded states were doing, and state after state began granting women the right to vote. By 1919, the U.S. government passed the 19th Amendment, which states, "The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex." Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation.
I thought we celebrate the passing of the 19th Amendment in 1920.
The amendment was ratified or put into effect in 1920, even though it passed in 1919. Illinois was one of the states to immediately apply the right to vote for women after this act passed.
So are there any notable suffragettes from St. Charles?
One of our most well-known suffragettes was Clara Jones Farson. She was the daughter of one of St. Charles's first attorneys, Stevens Sanborn Jones. You may remember him from one of our previous junior historian videos as the man who is credited with suggesting the name change of our city from Charlestown to St. Charles. In 1916, Clara, who grew up right here in this house, organized a group of women from St. Charles to march in Chicago to support of equal voting rights. Her march helped raise awareness of the voting rights issue to the suburbs, where it had previously been discussed mainly in the city. She was very active in civic engagement for most of her life and went on to serve as one of the founding members of the St. Charles Women's Club. Another important woman was Lena Pascal. She was one of the first owners and editors of the St. Charles Chronicle, also known as the Kane County Chronicle. Not only did she drastically increase circulation of the town newspaper, she often used a regular column she wrote called Table Clatter to highlight national political issues, including women's suffrage. She encouraged men, women, and their families to discuss these issues and be informed and get involved in the election process.
Thanks, Lindsay. As we all learned in the last year, it is very important for every vote to count. Where can our junior historians learn more?
For more information about the history of St. Charles, click the link in the description below to view the St. Charles History Museum's website.
Now join us as we head back to the St. Charles History Museum and we head inside to explore and learn how to make Suffragette Rosettes.
Welcome back to the St. Charles History Museum. Purple, white, and gold are famous colors of the U.S. suffrage movement. But why? In the early 1900s, suffragettes began to realize the need to come up with a brand, just as their fellow British suffragettes had done. They wanted to convey that they were smart, capable women who would bring civility to politics with the vote. British women were using green, white, and violet, which stood for Give Women the Vote, while also representing royalty, freedom, purity, and hope. American women replaced the green with gold to pay homage to the use of the sunflower in the 1867 suffrage referendum campaign, but decided to keep the purple and white. Purple would come to stand for loyalty, white for purity, and gold for hope. Here we have reproduction suffrage flags which shows these colors, and these will be on display in our front windows as part of our suffrage exhibit, which will be virtual starting on March 8th of this year.
Now that we're back at the St. Charles History Museum, we're going to make our Suffragette Rosettes. I made a template that has two 5-inch circles, so that's 5 inches in diameter across. You'll need 2 of these and 1 2-inch circle, which I've included the words Votes for Women, but you can type anything that you would like on there. And I tried to look for a little bit old-timey font, but it's still legible. We're going to cut those out in a second. You also need glue, a stapler, scissors, a pencil, and ribbon in our purple, gold, and white, and safety pins. So I'm going to start by cutting out the template. I printed these out on cardstock because it's going to need some heft to hold up all the ribbon and all the staples we'll be putting in there. And make sure you do have a lot of staples because you're going to need a lot of them. For that 2-inch circle, I made sure that I cut off all of the outlined edges because that's going to show up on the front of our rosette. For these two larger circles, it doesn't matter as much because these will be going on the back and we'll have all the ribbon hiding it. If you don't feel like your cardstock is thick enough, you can print out more circles and glue or tape them together or staple them together to give it a little bit more heft. Next, we'll need our ribbon. We're going to need a length of each one of these about 10 inches long. You can eyeball it. It looks about good. This is going to hang down from the bottom of our rosette. Make sure the white's in the middle. Gonna splay it out. We're gonna take one of our circles and staple it at the bottom. To make it look like that beautiful ribbon bottom, we're going to fold them in half and cut a triangle towards the center to create that nice little forked ribbon shape. And now we have the bottom of our ribbons. Next, we're going to take a length of ribbon here and wrap it around the edge of our other circle to get a measurement. And then we'll fold it in half there where we measured. 1, 2. So we have 3 folds over, cut. Now we can take our other 2 colors and measure these as well. I'm going to start with the purple. Set these 2 aside. I'm going to staple it towards the outer edge of the circle here, as close to the edge as you can, because we're going to layer the different colors and ruffle them in towards the center of the circle. Next, we're going to kind of pleat it backwards and keep doing that all the way around the edge, stapling periodically to hold it in place. Might be easier to do 1 pleat at a time, but if you can manage 2, you can do 2. It gets harder as you go along. If you have extra, you can cut it off. Just make sure you have enough to fold it over to hide the end of it. There we go, we've made a nice circle, and we'll take our next color and go around on the inside, and we will be doing the white. You want to go right inside the line here, so there's a little bit of overlap, but it's still being stapled to the cardstock or paper. Have a little extra again. Cut off less than you think. That way there's enough to fold it over and hide the ends. It's getting there. Next, we'll use the last color. And this will end up fitting right inside there and hiding all of those ugly staples. If you feel like it's getting too tight, feel free to use less of the ribbon this time. And cut off any extra. And make sure to hide your end. Whew. Beautiful, all those staples on the back too. Next, this is where you'll need your glue. If you have a hot glue gun, this might work a little better. I'm gonna make a little pile there in the middle to hold it down. And then also along the edges here, not too much so it squishes out though. Line it up so it's facing in the right direction, and you might have to hold that for a few minutes. Or put something heavy on it to hold it. While we're waiting for that, we can start adding our pins to the back. So this is what our second circle is for. It's not only to hide the staples and to protect your clothing from it, we're also going to add the pins so we can attach it to our outfits. So we're going to use our pencil here to measure where the button's gonna go. Probably gonna put it towards the top a little bit, that way it doesn't like flop around too much if it's in the center. I'm going to kind of mark off a little area where the opening part goes, and then also the end. That way they can slide right through it. That's another reason we have a pencil. Poke a hole. And then use our scissors to cut that out a little bit more. Careful where the pieces fly. This part doesn't have to be beautiful because it's going on the back. So now I have our openings, and we can insert our pin this way. That way the pin is open to where we put our clothes, and this side will be glued to the back of our rosette, right here. Hold that on there. Wait for that to dry. And then you have your pin there that opens outwards so you can attach it to your outfit. And you have your front with its lovely ribbons. And you can pin that to your lapel or your coat or scarf and show your support for the right for women to vote. Thank you for joining us for Junior Historians. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you can be notified of when new videos are posted each month and other programs from the St. Charles Public Library. Also, this month for March of 2021, you can make one of your very own rosettes here at the St. Charles History Museum. Check out their website and see when you can come and visit. Have a great day.